I don't know that you need one. Some of the best companies I know were single founders. Dropbox was a single founder. So you don't necessarily need one. However, most times it's good to have one. How do you find one? I mean, User Voice was unique in that we had 4 co-founders. One was a guy named Lance, who I worked with, that I did a lot of freelancing with. And we did a lot of freelancing work. And that was great because we already had a working relationship and we knew we liked working with each other. What was difficult about that is that we hadn't ever worked on a startup before. And so when we started getting more into kind of the dog days of doing a startup, it became clear that we both like working together, but we didn't like both working together on startups. My third co-founder, Marcus Nelson, actually met at a tech event in San Francisco. So, and then via kind of a Craigslist post, kind of a very weird way to meet people. And Scott, the other co-founder of User Voice, Scott Rutherford, we met doing open source. And of these methods, I would say, meeting someone over open source, like especially if your original co-founder is technical, and that's usually most teams. You've got 2 technical folks. Our team I was kind of the designer, and Lance was the engineer, or later Scott was the engineer. A great way to meet people is by doing open source projects or side projects. You get a sense of how to work with this person. You get a sense of how they work. Can you deal with them? You get to have some basic design decisions with them, and have disagreements, and get to kind of play work before you actually have to do it for real. However, I think finding a co-founder is still a very difficult thing. I went to a college, I went to NC State University, where I didn't actually run into a lot of the people that I felt were very entrepreneurial at the time. Now there's more online sites, things like YEC, things like there's another group in the Bay Area called Founders Network. There's places where you can find people that have the startup inclination, which I think was somewhat difficult 5-10 years ago. But it's tough because sometimes people don't always have the best intentions, and eventually what's I think challenging about co-founders is eventually someone has to be CEO and someone has to be the leader. And I think a lot of times you can find people that work great when it's 3 of you shoulder to shoulder, but when it's a team of 30 or 300 of you, and someone has to be the one person in charge making the final decisions, it's not easy to go from one mode, we're all equal, to another mode, we're equal, but one of us still gets the final decision. So I don't necessarily, I don't think that's as I joked to friends before doing this, I've been rewatching all the presidential debates to getting good at the art of not answering questions. So that's kind of my non-answer on how to find a co-founder.